The opinions and suggestions expressed on the following program are solely those of the participants and are not necessarily endorsed by KRMG, Cox Media Group Incorporated, or the program sponsors. This following program is sponsored by Causeway, LLC. Information in this broadcast is not intended as an investment, tax, or financial advice. Matthew Moore is not a licensed investment advisor and speaks solely from his experience and opinions. All information in this broadcast is for entertainment or educational purposes only. Matthew Moore, Causeway, LLC, and Cox Media Group Tulsa are not responsible for the success or failure of any person's investment decisions or purchases. Matthew Moore, Causeway, LLC, and Cox Media Group Tulsa makes no and expressly disclaims all representations, warranties, and guarantees with respect to this broadcast and its sponsors. Investing in any market is inherently risky and can be financially dangerous. Invest at your own risk. Gather knowledge in the world of cryptocurrency right now on 102.3 KRMG, Tulsa's news and talk. Welcome to Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. Matthew is locally based right here in Tulsa. Questions, comments, concerns? Call 918-460-5764 or send us an open mic using the KRMG app. Now, here's Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore.
And good Sunday evening to you. My name is Russell Mills. Thank you very much for sharing part of your Sunday with us here on 102.3 KRMG. We are live and local with Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. We're digging for that digital gold, and today we're going to reach back to the very beginnings of this show and cover some of the basics for you. Let's bring in the expert, the guy who actually wrote about a half a book about all this. I'll let you explain that. Matthew J. Moore. Hey, Matt.
Thank you, Russell. I appreciate the introduction.
Okay, you're going to have to explain the half book thing. So tell them about the book.
Okay, yeah. So Foundations for Liberty is my book. I wrote it a couple years ago, and I was always passionate about cryptocurrency, even 5 years ago, and I was always trying to tell people about it. And what I found was people were like looking at me with this blank stare because they didn't understand the problem.
No point of reference,
Right.
don't get the concepts, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I wrote the second half of the book primarily about the monetary system, because once you kind of understand the problems at hand with the money that we use today, then it makes a whole lot more of sense. And I know my co-host, Eric Cooper, he's here in studio with me as well. You've read my book, hopefully. Maybe.
What? You wrote a book?
Yeah. Right. You can find it on Amazon, so you can just Amazon it right now.
I heard it's a bestseller. That's when when you get through the halfway through and you start talking about the actual crypto. The government portion about what's broken, that's why we're here today, right? That's why we're going to go into some of this stuff. But it was a good history lesson because, obviously when we're learning that stuff in middle school and whatnot, we're not talking about a broken monetary system.
Well, I would argue that there are a lot of aspects that even, accountants and financial advisors are unaware of when it comes to how the Federal Reserve works and how all that stuff works.
That's true. And man, when you start talking about Bitcoin, their eyes glaze over.
Right.
And here's the thing. None of these problems that you're talking about happen in a vacuum. It's all interconnected.
Right.
So, the economy is this huge thing. It ain't Wall Street.
Right.
Right. That's one small piece of it.
That's right. 100%. It's all interconnected. And, we're going to touch back on some of the basics of money and Bitcoin, why I consider Bitcoin money. And it's not, we don't want to bore people who've heard our message before, but I hound on this all the time like a dead horse, because I feel like it's important for people to understand this aspect of it all. And one way you do that is hearing a message over and over and over again. And some of you guys might be new listeners. Maybe you're here in Tulsa. Maybe you live somewhere else and you're listening online. Again, this is an important element to understand when you have this new evolving asset class that's really coming to the scene. And I promise this show will not be identical to episode 1. So don't stop listening. You want to stick around, because we're going to unpack the genesis of money, and we're going to bring on some new viewpoints, and I'm going to add some additional commentary that maybe I haven't done before. In fact, Eric, who do we have as guests today?
So today we've got Eli Ferrell and Scott McElroy, and so they're both going to be hopping in here, and it's about social proof.
Yep.
We have other folks who live here in Tulsa who have orange pilled, and
Right.
I bet when we talk orange pill, that's a little bit more on our stuff, and we'll ask Eli if he knows what orange pill is, but he does know what the opportunity is.
Well, and I think it's important to hear people's personal stories, why they chose to jump into the space, why they chose to be a part of it. And I think I may have played a role in convincing Scott into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin when we bring them on segment 2. And Eric, I think you had some involvement with Eli as well.
Yeah, he's had a lot of brushes up with it even prior to me. But then I think that after several flyers on his windshield on his car, he definitely decided to ask, I got to help him on a little bit. And, that's, again, whatever version of help that we can offer someone, we will.
Right, exactly. Well, and the reason why I got into Bitcoin was because I wanted to be financially sovereign over my life. And I wanted to separate my money and life from inflation, theft, and out of control government. And I honestly, I just wanted to be the master of my own destiny and financial future. And that can scare a lot of people. But if you're anything like us and you nerd out on this kind of stuff, maybe you get excited about hearing us talk about all this, then you need to come learn and hang out with some of the most influential Bitcoiners in the world.
Yes.
Because conversations are always about philosophy, technology, freedom. Me and Eric, we're going down to Miami, Florida for the Bitcoin 2022 conference. You've heard me talk about it before. If you've been listening to this show, it's April 6th through 9th, and it's the world's largest cryptocurrency event. And honestly, our show, I'm super excited about this. We are officially a media partner, and if you go to mattjmoore.com and click Get Tickets, it will take you to the event portal. You can use our promo code, which is KRMG10 at checkout, and you can get 10% off of your tickets. The tickets are currently $400, and the longer you wait, the more that price goes up. So
checking the math on that. So 10% for 400. All right. So for $40 off your
Well
tickets,
done,
right?
sir.
There
Well
you go.
done.
Yes, you pass. This event sold out literally last year, and it will probably sell out again this year. You don't want to miss it. So go to mattjmoore.com and watch our highlight reels from the last conference. Big things are happening, and you don't want to miss it.
And again, so we had a conversation with Scott earlier. He's got a friend who is like, I just don't think it's not there yet. And we'll leave that friend unnamed, but it is there. We had a line that was a mile long wrapped around a couple city blocks, people standing out, to get in. And that was one of the more eye-opening things. But Matt, speaking of eye-opening and big thing, did you see the down in El Salvador, we have the locals are standing in line at Pizza Hut and McDonald's, and they are buying Big Macs and I guess pepperoni pizza or empanada pizza. I don't know what they're buying at Pizza Hut in El Salvador, but they're using Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is huge, Eric. I mean, it's estimated that because Bitcoin is picking up steam in El Salvador, that just the remittance companies like Western Union, MoneyGram,
Bye-bye.
Guess what? Get this, right? They will lose an estimated $400 million a year in commissions. And in 2020, El Salvador received nearly $6 billion in remittances, which is about 23% of its GDP. And with Bitcoin cutting out the large middlemen, that will be a lot of extra money being saved and injected into the El Salvador economy.
It's huge for the country, even if Bitcoin's not the main currency on an everyday basis. The fact is that they have their wallet and they're giving $30 in Bitcoin with this Bitcoin wallet.
The government
it's Chavo, right?
No,
That's not it. That's different. We'll strike that from the records. But the wallets that they're giving out is the 30. I mean, they're giving $30, and so it's really just means each person can save more of their money. I saw a story on Twitter also to where a guy was sending with Western Union, sending $100 down to his friend down in El Salvador, and so he sends 100 from here. They get 92 down here. That's not happening. And, it also took a little bit. We've all seen, if you've seen the movie Due Date, you may have to go the shenanigans with the guy trying to leave. You can do it all 24/7. So,
right. Well, it's cutting out a lot of the fluff. It's saving people a lot of money. And, this is a domino falling. And other developing countries will follow. And even if it was just for remittances for their country's economy, just that alone, why wouldn't they want to do that? Why wouldn't a country want to do that and inject an additional, who knows how much new money into their economy? Because, a lot of, especially in these developing countries, you got people who are sending money back home all the time. And you got these middlemen that are taking big chunks out of that whole process. Another developing thing that I found interesting was we didn't really anticipate this, but with El Salvador making Bitcoin one of its legal tenders, was it could possibly force organizations like the World Bank to accept Bitcoin. despite the World Bank and the IMF being against Bitcoin and criticizing this move on El Salvador, according to their founding documents of the World Bank, based on 1944 Articles of Agreement, the language in Section 12 of Article 5 basically indicates that it has a commitment to accept payments from member states in their local currencies. So keep in mind that the World Bank, this is something that they were opposed to, but they actually legally may be bound to start accepting it. So that's a big deal.
Under their own rules.
Yeah.
Right.
And those were written.
That's what happens when you write the rules. Then you have to live by those rules. All right, we're going to take a quick time out. You are listening to Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. If you've missed an episode or you'd like to hear that legendary episode 1, well, go to krmg.com, hit the on-demand section, and look for the little button that says Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. Of course, you can also see it on the KRMG app, and my understanding is we're on Spotify, iTunes, all over the place. We're killing it. All right, we'll be back with more of Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. After a quick timeout, you're listening to 102.3 KRMG, Tulsa's News and Talk. Welcome back to Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. We are live and local in the big city of Tulsa on 102.3 KRMG, Tulsa's News and Talk. My name is Russell Mills. Thank you very much for sharing part of your evening with us. If you're crypto curious, you have come to the right place, my friend, because these are the guys who know what they're talking about. And then they bring in more people who know what they're talking about, and I rarely do. So I'm just going to shut up and hand it over to our host, Matthew J. Moore. Hey, Matt.
Hey, thanks, Russell. I just want to welcome all of those of you who maybe you're in the space. Maybe you've been thinking about getting into the space. This is the show for you. Because why? We're bringing in experts. We're bringing in people that, we've had conversations with. They finally took the plunge some time ago. This episode, we're going to go back to some of the basics. And if you've been listening to this program, we're going to talk about some concepts that might be new to you. I'm going to add some new commentary. But this is going to be some social proof. And hopefully, by hearing these stories and these testimonies, that it'll take you a little bit further down the process of maybe jumping in yourself. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just my personal opinions, experience, thoughts. But I'm here to educate, and hopefully we can entertain you a little bit. In fact, some of the entertainment that we have all the time is my co-host, Eric Cooper. Welcome, Eric.
Hey,
Oh, there you go.
The microphone button game is a little subpar.
Yeah, we've been moving off a little bit.
I'm blaming football being
It's
back.
like whack-a-mole, except they don't actually move.
No, it's, once again, we had started this show back on, I think it was April 14th, April 16th, and we are trying to educate. And so if you want to go back and listen to any of the past episodes, Russell brought it up. We have YouTube, Spotify. You can check it on iTunes. You can go to krmg.com, look for Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. Just hit the old Google. If you look for Matt Moore, you're going to find our content. And so today, we're going to be bringing in some really great guests. So let's go ahead and do this right now. First up, we've got Scott McElroy, who is a business owner and pastor of a local church. And then we have my good friend Eli Ferrell, who's the marketing director for Burnett Home Improvement. And so, gentlemen, welcome to the show. Starting off with you, Scott, do you want to give a little synopsis of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on the show. I'm Scott McElroy. I've got 4 kids and a wife and 4 dogs and businesses and all kinds of things that we got going on. And we're actually building a car wash out in Broken Arrow. Should be open in the next 3 weeks. My wife and I also own Royal Valet, which is valet parking company here in Tulsa.
Scott, I apologize. I think I've been saying your last name wrong my entire life. I think I've been saying McElroy.
Yeah, it's McElroy.
Oh, dang it. I'm such a good friend.
But so the car wash is not called McElroy Car Wash.
No, the car wash is called Bubble Up Car Wash.
Bubble Up. Love it.
It's opening in the next couple of weeks. We're really, really, really excited.
Awesome. Eli, bring us on, dude.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah, name's Eli Ferrell. Grew up in Tulsa. Still here, and I love it. I'm the marketing director over at Burnett Home Improvement. If you've seen any crazy out-of-the-box kooky billboards,
Love it.
That's you.
That's me. Yeah,
Freedom.
Yeah, that's freedom
that's
from
one of
shady
them for
contractors. Sure. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So, anyways, well, let's get this started. Scott, I want to start with you. Let's start here. So, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but was I a big reason for you to jump into cryptocurrency? And can you explain to the audience why you decided to take that leap into this new and exciting space.
Yeah. So Matt and I would go to lunch every once in a while, and I remember when I actually heard about Bitcoin. I want to say first in like 2010, 2011. Like it was just starting to come onto the radar, and I remember reading about it and kind of like putting it out of my mind. Like I don't even know what this is, and it's digital, and I don't even know how to kind of wrap my head around it. And then we would go to lunch. We met at some businessmen association type things, and you're like, have you heard of Bitcoin? And I'm like, yeah, I think I have. Kind of tell me a little bit more. Like, oh man, it's the future, and it's happening, and don't you know this, all this kind of stuff. And you you'd send me links of things to listen to and all that kind of stuff. And I remember, I want to say it was probably the second or third lunch that we went to that I finally, when I got out to the car, I downloaded the app that I needed to, which was
I think it was Coinbase, wasn't it?
Coinbase, yeah. And I don't know, bought $100 worth of Bitcoin or something like that. And that was in like 2017 when, that first big run up of Bitcoin. Right. And so I bought, a little bit of that plus some other coins there. And then of course it, had its little bit of a dip there for a couple years. And I just kind of, forgot about it. And then, but every time that we would go to lunch, hey, have you bought more Bitcoin?
That was so annoying.
or have you bought this yet? And as soon as we'd leave, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to buy some more. So I'd go in and buy, little chunks of it.
Right. Well, Eli, what about you? I think you may have a similar story, don't you? I mean, what was it that made you take a serious look at crypto? I mean, was it the salesmanship of Eric Cooper?
My debonair smile.
Yeah, I think that had something to do with it for sure. Yeah. No, actually, the very first exposure I ever had to cryptocurrency and Bitcoin was actually, the first time I was like confronted with this idea that is cryptocurrency was back in like 2014.
Yeah.
And the reason was a good friend of mine from high school. He's actually from South Korea. He was a 4-year exchange student. We're still pretty close. And after high school, he went back to South Korea to, serve his 2 years mandatory, military service. And anyways, he right before he did that, he bought a little bit of Bitcoin and then completely forgot about it. He got out of the military 2 years later and was like, oh, I bought that Bitcoin. I don't know how many, it was, a couple $100 maybe, and checked it. And, he had a significant amount reflected in his account. Yeah. And he said he basically passed out, and that kind of funded his move to New York. And I don't know. So that was, I was like, okay, this thing is legit and real. And then I guess it took, 7 years for me to
pull the trigger for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, before we jump to break real quick, I just want to ask you two, just to sum it up real nice and quick. What was the biggest, tipping point for you to, hey, let's do this? Can you sum it up? Like, was there something that motivated you?
Yeah, for sure. Just a lot of, information that Eric kind of breadcrumbed me and another friend of mine, Seth as well. And I saw that there was a big dip there a few months back, and I was like, hey, we might as well give this a go. And so kind of started, and then kind of got real obsessed. I'm one of those people that can, just like forget everything else around me, get tunnel vision and go deep. And so, I had about a month there where I was really getting familiar. So.
Right. Well, with Scott, I just basically twisted his arm, it sounds like. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about this.
All right, let's take a quick time out. We got to get everybody caught up on the news and the weather of the day. You're listening to Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore on 102.3 KRMG, Tulsa's News and Talk. My name is Russell Mills. Stick with us. We'll be right back after the news. Well, thank you so much for sharing part of your Sunday evening with us here on 102.3 KRMG. We are live and local. This is The Real Thing, and we're talking about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in particular. And we're talking about it with people who know their stuff. Like, for instance, our host, Matthew J. Moore. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Russell. And gosh, I love it because every time I'm here in studio talking about this, we do have the coolest music to our show, right?
Levi did a great job of picking out the music.
He did.
It's happening.
Yeah. I mean, we rave and celebrate about Bitcoin all the time. So welcome. If you're a new listener, I am Matthew J. Moore, and you can find out more about us at mattjmoore.com. But this is in my opinion, the best radio show out there in the country about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And to help me navigate this conversation about social proof, why somebody should get into Bitcoin, why Bitcoin is money, and why we should care, and my co-host, Eric Cooper. Eric, welcome, and we should care, shouldn't we?
We should care. We should care. You know what? I love doing this. This is one of my favorite things. Usually when you get up to go do things, you have to get yourself excited. I just come in excited to talk about this, and I want to talk about what we were doing in segment 2. We brought in Scott McElroy and Eli Ferrell, two good friends of ours, and kind of their genesis story and how they got into cryptocurrency. So, guys, I want to kick off with one big question here. I put a Facebook post out, and then I could read answers on that one. But when most people have their own definition of money, how do you define what is money? Scott, go ahead and knock it out first.
Are you talking about how I define money or how most people define money? Most people define money. I would say most people define money as a dollar bill that they hold in their wallet or something that they have in their bank account.
Full stop, right?
Yeah. Just, they don't, most people don't understand the foundational aspects of what money is, why it's money, what can be done with money, why that definition is there.
Eli, do you have any thoughts on what people typically perceive as money?
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe not most people, but a lot of people would probably say that it's a note, it's a representation backed by gold that we're able to use and trade for products and services.
And I find it fascinating because the older the demographic you ask, a lot of times you get that response like, oh, we use these dollar bills, they're backed by gold, yada yada yada. But the truth is, that's no longer the truth.
Right.
So, but it's fun to go through this educational process because it opens up a lot of people's eyes, a lot of people's minds on what kind of money we use today, why I don't really consider it money. And on this show, I've often talked about the downfalls of the government money that we use today and its finite lifespan. I bet, or actually, I honestly, I beat this like a dead horse. And I bet most of you guys are unfamiliar with what I'm getting ready to tell you. But we covering this is on purpose. I want you guys to walk away and just really let this concept seep in and to encourage this idea. I'm a big fan of this idea, which is the separation of state and money. Because in my opinion, I believe that it would be helpful if we did this to reduce corruption and government abuse of power. And I've tried to educate people about the differences between money and currency and how the US dollar is not actually money, but a currency. In fact, I've probably drilled it into Eric's head a million times by now. So let me put him on the spot. Eric, what does money and currency, what does money and currency have in common? And what makes money and currency different from each other?
Okay, so both money and currency have some common principles. I always write them down so I don't leave out the easy ones. A medium of exchange, right? So a unit of account. It's portable, divisible, durable, and fungible. And so, that's basically it. But only gold and silver and Bitcoin are actually considered a money due to its ability to have a store of value. And we brought it back. We had the bank guy in Texas, in one of our earlier episodes, he said, what this does, it is a store of value. And so, most people are starting to recognize that.
Well, honestly, the difference is found in its ability. Something needs to be a store of value, something that can protect your purchasing power over a long period of time. That's what makes something a good money. And there's no doubt that human perception, utility, these are all important factors in money. But again, the most important quality is scarcity, which creates that store of value. Bitcoin, silver, and gold are great stores of value because they cannot simply just be inflated away. In other words, they can't be printed or created to infinity, which is what we're seeing today.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I love this idea, Matt, because in essence, they are fair forms of money because they are not issued from an elite few. And that's, again, when we talk fiat, it is a decree put upon us by the government.
Right.
And if I work for this type of money, I know that it's a fair playing ground. When I work for it, I have to spend time and energy and resources to do so. The ones who are creating it or mining it also have a lot of time and energy and resources that they put into it. And that's the beginning of the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency train.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because right now, if they were to create money, it's just an elite few that push a button,
ping,
right?
Yeah. So somebody drops a little hits a button.
Yeah,
we got $10 trillion.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, and it's there's only so much gold, silver, and Bitcoin that will ever be available, and Bitcoin is the rarest. Bitcoin achieves this through blockchain technology, encryption, and a protocol that makes it practically impossible to change. We classify it as digital scarcity, which is hard for people to wrap their mind around because it's such a new idea. Scott, I know that you are familiar with these ideas that we just talked about and just discussed. But Eli, were there any ideas that we just talked about or concepts that does this make sense to you?
I'm getting there.
You're getting there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting there. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of I have a fire hose essentially. I'm down, pouring this all over on the table here, saying, hey, let's talk about it. But so why do you guys think that these concepts are not talked about more?
That's one of the things that I wonder why we're not taught some of this stuff in high school, right? Or middle school or something like that. Why are we not talking about money? Why are we not talking about these concepts that you're discussing today? And I think it's because they don't want to.
Yeah. Right.
Call them elites or call them the ones that are pulling the strings and all that kind of stuff. They don't want the general population to understand
the whole process,
what's happening to their money and what's happening to their currency.
Right. Well, and I would argue that the type of money that a society uses is actually very important for the success and the freedom of that society. Do you guys feel that that's a fair statement? I mean, Scott, let's start here. Do you think that the type of money that we use should be important?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that if, our entire system is designed for debt.
Right.
Our entire system is designed on a debt structure. And so the more we get in debt and the more debt we attain as a country, the longer this whole, call it a charade or call it whatever, this whole thing stays, up.
Right.
And, when we look at wanting to be free of debt and we want to be free of government entanglements and those kinds of things, we have to really take a serious look at what are we using for money? What are we using for currency? What are we using to pay for our goods and services?
Right. Well, and Eli, what are your thoughts? Do you feel like, hearing this now, I don't know if this is the first time you've heard some of these concepts. Is this the first time?
Yeah, a couple of these concepts, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you hear people talk about the debt ceiling, the deficits, the spending, all of these aspects of it, right? But most people don't realize that the form of money that we use is a true unit of debt. In other words, if you borrow $1 into existence, you got to pay interest on that, right? So if you borrow the first one into existence and you owe interest on that dollar that you borrowed into existence, right? Now this gets kind of confusing, right? So it's a perpetual system of debt. Sure. So it's just there's always more debt in the system than there is currency.
Yeah, and I mean I think that's one of the things that was really interesting to me is how it is a way to have currency that is not controlled completely, by government regulation yet.
So, when you talk about maybe some of your, parents or siblings, do you guys ever talk about money at home or with your family? I mean, is this, I don't know how often you have these kind of thoughts.
Did you share with them that you kind of jumped into the crypto game?
Yeah, of course, and they're really interested. But just like I think the main thing is like change is scary, and when it's so hard to understand, it's not that hard to understand, but it takes some work. I think that people would rather, it's just human nature to kind of just look the other way and just go about life and
why rock the boat?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And, if this show, we're not going to be able to cover everything that you need to know. But if you go to my site, mattjmoore.com, you purchase my book, Foundations for Liberty, you can read all about the monetary system, how it works today in the second half. And then most importantly, I would encourage you to Google or YouTube this video series from this person called Mike Maloney. It's called The Hidden Secrets of Money, and it's a 10-part video series, and they're each 30 minutes long. In fact, Scott, I think you actually showed this at your church that you pastor at, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We went through the course. I made it a course over 10 weeks or so, and we had amazing discussions.
Where like a lot of people's brains going.
Yes.
Okay, so as we get ready to go to break here, we will be back here in just a minute, but I'll leave you with this thought, and I want you to think about this. $1 in your pocket today ain't worth what it was 5 years ago. Right. It definitely ain't worth what it was 20 years ago, and forget about 100 years ago. So what do dollars do? They shrink in value.
Right.
And that is always going to be the case. I don't care what currency you're talking about, little fluctuations, but over time, there's this thing called inflation, and that is not what happens with Bitcoin.
Right.
Why? Because there's 21 million from day one. There'll be 21 million when the world as we know it ends.
Right.
Right? It's only going to grow in value. So wrap your head around that and then come back and listen to more of Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. You got it on 102.3 KRMG, Tulsa's News and Talk. Welcome back to Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. My name is Russell Mills. We are live and local in the big city of Tulsa, Oklahoma on a Sunday evening. I will tell you that it is hot. It's going to stay hot. We may have a little cooler weather, but what's really cool is to keep track of this show. And if you lose track, go find the podcasts. You'll find them all right there on demand at krmg.com or on the KRMG app. Please welcome back our host, Matthew J. Moore. Hey, Matt.
Hey, thanks, Russell, and welcome back, Tulsa. Welcome back, listeners. We honestly love to have you with us because this is a journey. This is always a journey. It's an education. It's a learning process. So if there's a lot of things you've been hearing about today when it comes to the origins of money, why Bitcoin is considered money, how all this stuff works, don't worry. It takes time. You got to just tune in on a regular basis and listen to our show and do some of the things that I suggest. Now, it's not financial advice, but I'm just giving you my personal opinion and experience. And the person who has taken some of my advice and experience has been my co-host, Eric Cooper. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, Matt. And yeah, so last segment, we were talking a little bit with a couple of our guests here. Some of the principles of money, both money and currency are a medium of exchange, a unit of account, portable, divisible, durable, fungible. We also were talking about
store of value.
Yeah, store of value for gold, silver, Bitcoin. And, we bring up some of the portions where fiat currencies are mandated by the government. We have no say. We all love the stimulus checks, but at the same time, we didn't get to vote for them. Nothing like that happened. Somebody pressed a button, money was there, right?
Right.
And one, kind of frightening stat was was it 40% of all of our currency in right now, of all of our money, was created last year?
Yeah, it's about 30-40%, somewhere around there.
But to say that there's 30% chance that a dollar that you find on the street was created last year, that just kind of blows my mind.
Well, took, here's a fun fact. It took, I think it was a couple hundred years to create $1 trillion. Yeah. And now we create it, it seems like weekly, monthly, or yearly. And so if that doesn't tell you something about the system of debt, then this is a wake up. This is a wake up call. And on this episode, we've talked a lot about how our current monetary system is broken. We didn't really go into detail on how it works and functions, but it's a lot to cover. But if you want to get a good detailed visual, please look up the video series from Mike Maloney called "The Hidden Secrets of Money." And episode 4 will actually teach you a lot, what you need to know on how the dollar system works and why it's going to fail, in my opinion. But before we close out today's show, I thought it might be fun to drop a few nuggets or hints. And these are all clues directly from my book, Foundations for Liberty, which you can find on Amazon. The first quote is from the Federal Reserve itself. And it was published in one of their papers in November 1975. And it states that the decrease in purchasing power incurred by holders of money due to inflation imparts gains to the issuers of money. Now, keep in mind that the issuers of America's currencies are the stockholders of the Federal Reserve. That's right. I bet you thought it was a federal agency. Henry Ford, the founder of the Ford Motor Company, once stated, "It is well enough that the people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." And finally, this one, this is a doozy. This comes from the mouth of John Maynard Keynes, who was the father of today's, in my opinion, corrupt economic thinking known as Keynesian economics. I'm a fan of Austrian economics. In 1920, in a piece of literature known as The Economic Consequences of the Peace, he basically admitted this, that if the government refrains from regulation, which is basically force and manipulation, and allows matters to take their course, essential commodities soon attain a level of price out of reach of all but the rich, and the worthlessness of the money, fiat paper money, becomes apparent, and the fraud upon the public, which is inflation or money creation, can be concealed no longer. Woo! Those are some heavy nuggets in my opinion. But Scott, I know you understand these truths. Did all of this make you mad when you watched the 10 video series called The Hidden Secrets of Money?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're faced with the reality of what you're hearing, and also putting it into, like, these are actual agencies, these are buildings, these are things that are actually in existence, and it's literally stealing the purchasing power of America.
Your time, labor, energy,
all of that kind of stuff, and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to protect myself against this? How am I supposed to, quote unquote, fight back?
Right.
And one of the things that I think that the church in general has failed to do is teach their people about economic policy.
Right.
And so we did a money class. It was started in about December last year, and took probably about 40, 50 people through this Hidden Secrets of Money, talking about all the different policies and things that are in existence and why we need to find other avenues.
Right. Well, Eli, do you plan to watch this video series we've been talking about?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna check it out for sure.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on those statements that I made from Keynes and from Henry Ford and from the Federal Reserve?
Yeah, that's pretty heavy duty. Gonna maybe lose some sleep tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Oh gosh, Eric, you got any thoughts?
So I've got your book right here, and I did a lot of reading in there. But again, our founding fathers knew that if they placed this into the hands of people who are corrupt by nature, that it was going to go south. And guess what?
Decentralization. It's key.
All right. This is the show where we talk about what's next. Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. So we got to wrap it up for this week, but fear not, my friend. We will be back next Sunday. We will be live and we'll be talking this over. Who knows what's going to happen in the markets between now and then, but we'll keep track for you, and then we'll help break it down. Thanks for listening. I'm Russell Mills. We'll see you next week for more Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore.